Yeah, you were pretty good with Kay up there. I drove up to see your deal with Krzyzewski. You're good.
Well, Mike's, he's a great kid guy and a good guy. I like him.
How do you feel? I mean, you look great. Have you been working out?
I feel great. I kept my weight down. I've been doing a lot of walking. I really feel good. And I had a good spring. I enjoyed spring. Mm-hmm. I've had the last couple of years I've been running around with a car. That's not my style.
I know.
Right now I'm running around and chewing people out, trying to demonstrate a little bit. I'm enjoying it.
You haven't, no kicking recently though.
My days are, well, I did kick a little bit.
I just need to know these things.
Kick, but I was ready for it this year. That was the dumbest thing I've ever done in my life. But you get sometimes I keep teasing the kids, cut it out, get in there. The kids gave it to me going out to practice.
Nice to
not hurt.
You got to play hurt, Coach. Have you heard?
Yeah.
We were able to throw out Socrates yesterday in the press conference. That was always nice to hear. You still do as much reading as you used to?
We're just talking about doing some reading. That's just talking about Guido was in China. He's reading Kissinger's book on China, and I told him, I said, there's a guy by the name of Fox Butterfield. He's a Harvard kid. He used to be a sports writer.
It's dangerous.
He wrote a book on China maybe 20 years ago. Still wrote. And I said, because Guido just came back from China. I was telling him, I said, it's interesting. Because Kissinger's book in the diplomatic arena and everything else. This guy, China was just starting to emerge as an industrial world. Predicted some things in the book. And he's only a young kid, well written, and right now he's written a couple other books. I haven't seen him for years. But I've read some good stuff. Brooklyn Buddy, Doris Goodwin wrote that great book.
You still have as much. Is football as much fun now as it used to be? Can you make it as much fun?
Yeah, the kids, I don't like this. I'll be just honest with you. People ask you questions you're supposed to. You can't tell them. And half the time that's what you don't know. You guys, that's a very good quote. But no, I don't like this. I like the coaching. I like to go with the kids. Got a great staff. You go into a staff, you can yell at each other and nobody gets, there's nobody, I'm enjoying it. The coach has been great to me. It's been great.
Pretty amazing when you look back at what you've been able to do there. I mean, and what the school's been able to accomplish since you got there. I mean, you've watched it grow up as a school, and it's not just the football program, but
it was a cow college.
Yeah.
State College was a little. But it's if there's a talent I may have, it may be that I can evaluate people. When I came to Penn State in 1950, they had just struggled to head area. They had an acting president, guy by the name of Milton. They hired Milton Eisenhower. Milton Eisenhower was a great college president. And he was the kind of guy that you just knew was going to make some things happen. And then he left when Ike was running. And he went down to be closer to us. He took the job of John Hackman to run. And the guy who took over, Eric Walker, was the dean of the engineering school. the best college president probably.
Really?
And a great guy. And I don't mean, that guy. I'm talking about a guy that was smart as a whip. You couldn't fool him. Don't give me that. He'd tell you, sit there, just a little guy, looking at you. Almost in his eyes and say, don't give me that crap. He was so you could sense it was gonna, and everything. Everybody was that came to the place. I came out there. I tell the story. I bore you guys, but I didn't want to come to State College. I was on my way to law school. I owed money, and Rip says, "Hey, I'm going to leave Brown. I'm going down and take the job at Penn State." And I had helped in those days. The Ivy League had spring practice, and I had helped at spring practice. When he said, "Why don't you come on down and work with the quarterbacks?" I said, "No, I don't want to." He says, "Come on down." He said, "Well, I'm driving down. I'm going down and need some company. Come on down with me." And we in those days we had a reading period before we had to write your senior thesis and all that. So he said, "Okay." So we drive down. And all the way down he's telling me, well, he's always wanted to go. He always wanted to work at Penn State. Such a beautiful town. Where do you see the campus? It's so clean. He said, even the bonds. He said, when you go in the bonds, he said, they're so clean you could eat off the floor. Well, the only bond I had ever been in was a trolley car bond. So he takes me down, he's showing me around. We walk into the bonds, eat on the floor, I forgot. Look at him, he's nuts. But anyway, they fixed it up so I could save some money. I was in the dorms, was a dorm council, got free room and board. I paid me $3,600, and I owed $2,000. I was figured 2 years I'd have it saved.
Oh.
It was a great town. Yeah, I was a Brooklyn guy, I was a big city guy. I thought I was going to take over that town. It took over me.
How do you come about a talent for evaluating people? Is that something you get from your parents, from educators? Because that's an important thing in life, it seems.
My dad was a pretty good guy. My dad was a great guy. My mom was one of 10 kids. My dad was one of 7. All my grandparents were immigrants. And, my dad used to sit down there and he always gave the guy the benefit of the doubt. Everybody was his friend till he proved otherwise. Everybody could do the job if you gave him a chance. If you reach out, somebody can love you. And that kind of stuff. Remember he said one time, he said, love is a funny thing, he said. Because somebody was bitching. My mom, Sunday in my house, when I was home, after Mass, my mom would start cooking. And everybody in the neighborhood would come up and bring them in for the eggplant or the veal, whatever it was coming up. My old man had the bottle of homemade wine out there, which I loved to argue. He said one time when I was sitting, some guy was shooting his mouth off. There was a pain in the rear end, and I was always trying to not let him in. My dad said to me, he said, Joe, he said, you know what love's all about? I said, no. I said, yeah. He said, love is when you can reach out to somebody you don't like. He said, if somebody needs you, he said, then that's love. He said, it's easy to love somebody you like, it's easy to love somebody who's attractive, it's easy to love somebody that's, fun to be around, he said.
Joe, how lucky were you to grow up in Brooklyn? I mean, in its own way, wasn't that kind of like?
It was a great experience.
Yeah.
Hey, listen, I just telling somebody, Sonny Wordman, Art Modell, Al Werner, Al Davis, all went to the same high school.
Amazing.
And Barbara Stanwyck.
What?
That's
Joan
a cast of
Blondell
characters. Yeah.
at the
Big
Rasmus
Valley.
High School.
Rasmus? No, this is sad. It's no longer there. You know, they closed it.
Well, you know.
But it used to have 9,000 kids.
Well, I live right down the block from James Madison High School. All the Tories went there. I live 3 blocks away from Lombardi. His cousins, the Izzos, I went to parochial school with me. I wanted to go to Madison. Madison, honest to God, Madison was from here across the street from my house. My dad said, no, you're going to a Catholic school. Yeah, he used to have to, it cost him $20 bucks a month, cost him $200 bucks a year.
Wow.
And he was making $5,600. I had to walk 10 blocks to get on the trolley car. For 35 minutes, get off the trolley car, and walk another 8 blocks to get to the Jesuit High School. I used to leave 6:30, 7 o'clock in the morning, when I could have gotten up and walked 2 blocks. Justice Ginsburg was a Madison graduate.
So did they really make you translate the Aeneid?
They didn't make me. You know, I had 4 years of Latin.
I knew that.
I had a year of Greek, 4 years of Latin, 2 years of French.
Right.
The Jesuits were tough in those days. And they still are tough. But
They make you think.
there was a guy by the name of Birmingham who was a young scholastic studying to be a priest. He was a great guy. And we didn't get around my senior year to translating Virgil's Aeneid. We did all the seasons, Gallic Wars, and actually had done some things with, and it wasn't a translation of some of the things Homer had done. But he said to me, you know what? He said, why don't you and I translate Virgil's Aeneid? I said, jeez. When the father, Mr. We had to call Mr. Birmingham. I said, yeah. He said, it'd be good. You'll learn a lot from me. He said, you know, because he said Virgil was really the forerunner of Christ. He said he was a guy that really had influence on the world, Christianity, religion. So I said, okay, after 1 or 2 days, and we translate the whole thing. Well, you know, one day we go about 50 lines. He goes 35, I go 15. Pretty soon I'm going 7 o'clock in the morning, 6 o'clock in the morning. We did the whole damn thing. But he was great. We have a scholarship in Penn State in his name.
Really?
And I put a scholarship, and we have one at Fordham in his name. He's a great guy. But it was a very meaningful experience.
Your whole life has been surrounded by education. Your dad staying up till 3 o'clock in the morning to study, just to graduate. And you're going to a private school that really had a terrific image when you were not, and still does.
Well, you know, you asked me about evaluating people. I mean, I've had the benefit of everything. I've had parents that really cared about me. I had teachers that cared about me. You know, that gave me goals and set standards for me and encouraged me to do certain things. And you gotta be lucky. I feel sorry for some of these kids that, you know, the guy that next door to me was a cook, you know, was a drug addict. Drug addict. I mean, I didn't. I had done a block. We had 3 Jewish families on the block, and they were all Orthodox. And I used to have the Friday night I had a job. I used to go around and light stoves because they couldn't light the stove. I forget what they used to call it. I don't know. I get on my bike, I go down there, and light stoves, you know, lights, whatever they wouldn't do. Sabbath. So it was all. Gotta be careful. As I said to the group yesterday, that's why I go back and read some things I wrote down years ago. what he said about 400 years ago.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
Kids are tyrants.
Was he right? Probably.
You look around, he's not too far off.
You've been at one school, and you've had millions of opportunities. Not millions, but you've had numerous opportunities to leave. When you look back and say, this may never happen again for one guy to coach at one school for this period of time. It's almost unheard of.
People give me more credit for that than I deserve. I think you got to give the university and the people that have been connected with the university, the fans, the alumni, the townspeople. I was never an outsider. 1 year.
That's a good point.
1 year I got involved with Al Michaels, who ended up being the head coach in North Carolina State. Al was an assistant coach. And he and I got in an argument one time in a meeting, and Al had coached for 20 years, and I had my first year coaching, and I had all the answers. I didn't even know what started. So Al said, you know what? He said, I'm sick and tired of hearing from the carpetbaggers. Well, one of the guys, Jim O'Hara, who I ended up living with for 10 years, his family, Jim O'Hara, called me outside. He said, relax. He said, so he got a hold of Al Michaels. He said, Mike, he said, and Al Michaels had me over the house, apologized to his house. His wife made me a spaghetti dinner, and every Thursday night Al had me over to his house.
Wow.
Then he went with Earl Edwards. Earl Edwards got the head job in North Carolina State. He and Earl had been teammates at Penn State. I mean, it was all, it was always somebody there that, so I didn't see any reason to leave. Well, it's State College, this sounds like a recruiting experience. State College, pretty darn tough place to be.
You get lost at all walking around with all the new construction and stuff? Because it's on campus, too. It's crazy.
But they've done a really good job. I've worked, I got to pick my times here.
Right.
There's
So you're not
people
swarmed.
coming drive me nuts. These new cameras.
They know everything.
Oh, geez. Yeah. All of a sudden your car's going by.
Hey, I know that guy. Welcome to social media. Welcome to social media.
Yeah, but you're right about it. So they made little not eating areas, but sitting areas. And the landscaping. They've done a great job. So much of the campus. It's beautiful. And of course, we're right down the block from the Arboretum, which I love to go. I can walk right down around the block towards Schreier's, to the president lived, go around the back, go to the Arboretum, and walk around. I go out and see if there's any cars parked. A lot of cars parked, I don't go. Not many cars parked, go down there, walk around, and watch the cars. But it's really a great,
Did you get down the shore at all?
Yeah, I went down. I went down there for 12
Did you
days.
stay 2 weeks this year?
12 days.
That's better. It used to be 5.
I don't know that's good or bad. Some of the guys not on staff wish I go another 2 weeks. One of the guys says, don't hurry back. He's we're in that here. We're doing all right without you.
You think we're going to solve you think we're going to solve the debt ceiling?
All the years I've been,
It's pretty scary.
I'm more worried about where we're living up right now.
How much?
It just seems like you get a bunch of enmity, more interested in re-elected than they are. They get, and unfortunate, a lot of it's because of the media and because of email and money. They get elected and they start raising money to get re-elected. I think we ought to take a good look at it. Say, okay, you get a 6-year term, period. You're not looking to pay a politician. Commitment to this country, to this country. 6 years, so you go, elected, you got to say the right things in order to get reelected. You got to do what's best for the country. I mean, that's what we do. You would hope that would be, but that would.
You do something quickly.
Well, I don't know. One day they tell you the default, the interest is going to go up. The next day somebody tells you something different. They get this. They're playing games with.
Yes, with the American public. That's scary.
That's
Scary.
one day you think, hey, the people don't want any taxes. It's hard for me to believe that there isn't some way to have fair tax. Apple's got what, $75 billion in reserve?
Yeah.
Somebody else has got money, and we want to take. I'm not a great guy for helping people who don't help themselves. Which is Medicare and all those kinds of things. I don't have Social Security for me. I've got a retirement plan.
If you don't retire,
I get Social Security too.
So you're not retiring anyway, right? So
I'm going to be reading about you when you're 100. That's all I have to say.
Well, if you're reading me when I'm 100,
you know what? I'm not that far behind you then.
I'll tell you, I'll have a pair of wings behind me. Okay. And I'll be
Good.
flying in. And the next guy next to me will be Virgil. All right. There you go.
That's great. That's funny. You've had so many big moments in your career. I think there's one day that you always remember. Professionally. Obviously, you remember when you have first children, remember you get married, but you think that professionally there's ever a day that you remember? First national championship?
Well, I think it's probably the first game I coached as a head coach. Coached against a guy by the name of Saban, not Nick, Lou Saban. Lou Saban, who had left Buffalo. He had won the AFL championship. And we had a great coaching game. Mike Reed had 3 safeties blocked.
Yeah.
We beat him 15. So we got 6 points out of 3 safeties. We grabbed a couple of guys.
So,
there's my first win as a head coach. You always wonder what the head coaches say to each other. So I'm looking for Saban. He's gone.
yeah, long gone.
It's funny how that thing still. And then he called me on Monday. He said, I apologize for not going over to congratulate you. He said, both of us were so lousy, I didn't have to.
That's
Made
great.
me feel great. But that probably.
You did something no one thought could. The grand experiment. It was one of those great visions that kind of lasted. How much of the Brown experience went into that?
Well, I still believe, again, I've got to be careful because it's easy to sound like you're preaching, but I still believe there's great benefits that can come out of team sports or any kind of competition. You learn discipline, appreciate the other guy. I've always said, I don't want the other guy to be lousy or even better. There's some things that go into the competition that I think moves over even. If you can tie to them with a good education, you really have gotten a great experience. And that was it. I just didn't want to have a bunch of guys out there that were
one-dimensional.
One-dimensional hot shots. They make a tackle and that's say, everybody look at me, kind of crap. And I wanted them to go to class. I wanted them to be able to do some things that, again, I go back to my father. Everybody used to come around there in trouble. They come and see my dad. That they would appreciate, reach out, say hello, do some things. And, we were fortunate. I inherited some great guys. It was easy for me to preach because I had
those first two unbeaten teams really were the epitome of the whole student-athlete thing. You really had classy kids.
It's a shame that They weren't national champs 1 year anyway. It's really,
Was bad as they announced it before the season was even over. Remember that?
well, that was Nixon and Bud Wilson.
Yeah.
That was the Southern strategy to get Nixon.
You're right.
But they were, no, we've been fortunate. People, the question was asked to me, I don't know whether it was there, I forget where, about we're one of the few major programs that have not had a major violation.
It's pretty good.
Well, but as I said, I don't like to point fingers. I don't know. We might have, me to tell you that in 61 years of coaching, we haven't had somebody do something they shouldn't have done that I should have known about. No, I don't. There's got to be some kid that's had some alumnus from his town did something. I mean, and I know. So I'm not about to point to things, but I do tell, as I said yesterday, and I believe, don't worry about guys that are looking for a handout. Don't worry about it. If we lose them, we lose them. But the ones you bring in, make sure they understand what they're getting into. And they're going to have to go to class. And, I'm a little bit of a bug on appearances because I think it's important later on in life to you respect the guys you're going to see and all those kinds of things. And make sure you get that across them. That they're here to get an education and we'll coach them and they're not going to be, Laurel, I told a lot of freshman kids when I talked to them, Laurel's very heavy.
I liked what you said yesterday when you said the advice you got about don't worry about the kids you lose, but worry about the kids who are the right fit. I think some schools could.
Yeah, well.
Everybody's in a hurry.
Fairness to the coaches today. Fairness. And again, it sounds like we wouldn't have the interest in the game we have today. If it wasn't for the television and you guys. And I know the newspapers have got to fight the television, and you guys have got to have some kind of an angle. And I try to read. I don't read them. I try not to read them. I really don't. I know you do. And I hate like the devil will tell you. I may think it, but I don't know. But having said that, the coach today has got, a young coach today has got so many people second guessing. You can't make a mistake. If every mistake I made coaching, whether it was who I played the right guy, they made the right decision, they did this right. And if we had had the media exposure that we have now, probably would have gone to law school. And they get big money, but they get big money, and it's great. All right, it's not the game I started to coach. It's not.
At least you had the pleasure of coaching the game you wanted to coach when you got in it, though. I mean, because I think a lot of those coaches did it for the love of the game.
Well, these guys are great coaches. You talk about some of the guys getting in front of you. When you're talking about some really good football coaches, but maybe a couple of kids get hurt. Maybe they have the discipline. You're not telling everybody now. You got to be alert. You got to do this. You got to do that. You better win.
It's always the bottom line. You can graduate all your kids, but you better win.
Way, kid. And I tell you, there's a little bit of pride involved. Money doesn't solve all you.
Right.
Money doesn't make you feel good all the time. It helps, obviously, but it doesn't. So it's a different game. I would never have stayed in it this long, at a different place. If I were 35 today, starting out 36 with us, and this environment, and I had trustees, and I had donors telling me how to coach. When I came, when I got to be head coach, we needed facilities, and we had no fundraising ability at all. Nobody had really worked at it. I decided, hey, I got to go out and raise some money. And I went to maybe first year 20, 25 different groups. My team always ended up with it. I gave them the pitch. Now remember, I want your money, but I don't want your 2 cents.
It's probably good.
You can't get the money today without the 2 cents.
Yeah.
They all want to have something to say. And then if they don't have something, and if they have something to say, they put it on a damn email or whatever they guys have got. I don't have a computer. I don't have a cell phone.
Well, everybody wants to coach your team. You should know that by now.
Hey, my kids are poor ones. Every once in a while, one of them just for my own information. How come? So where did you hear that? It's on the internet.
If you talked about going to law school. What do you think you would have done if you weren't a football coach? Do you think you would have been a lawyer?
My dad, my dad was a lawyer, my uncle was a lawyer. I got a kid who's a lawyer. No, my dad loved the law. My dad was a clerk in the courts.
I know.
My dad was quite a guy. In fact, I have a speech I never knew he had given. He was one of the founders of the Anti-Defamation League in New York City.
You know that?
In 1945, he gave a speech, and my sister was going through some things and came across a speech about, in those days we used to call it African American color, and he was making a pitch for it. We weren't being fair to color. And he had been in the service, he had been the first one. He loved the law. He went to school. He never graduated from high school until he came back from the service. Got out of high school, went out to St. John's at night, got out of law school at night. I'm 13, 14 years old, and he's down there studying for the bar exam. Always wanted me to be. Broke his heart when I called him up and told him he's not coach. I told that story in hospital. I said, I'm going to coach him. He said, what the hell did you go to college for?
Did people ever try to push you into politics? Didn't you go through one stretch where people wanted you to run?
They tried to get me to run for governor.
Yeah. What did you think about that? Well, they wanted Bear to run for president, so.
Well, you got to be realistic. There are certain people that are better qualified to do certain jobs. And if you want to take on a job, you shouldn't take it on unless you feel that you're the best guy for that job.
Yeah.
If you want to do some good with the job, I think you have an obligation. For me to be the governor of the state of Pennsylvania, in fact, I sat down with McKenna and one of the Mellon kid that had the paper at Greensburg. And some people, we had lunch down at the country club over in Ligonier. And, what was his name? Cliff Jones was the head of the board. And we got talking, and I said, if I ran for governor, this road I won. I said, I don't know anyone. Who would be Secretary of Agriculture? Who would be this? Don't worry about that. I'll tell you who.
It's almost like
that was the end of the discussion, as far as I was concerned. I mean, I'm not qualified for the damn job. Why should I go? I think that, and that's part of our problem. I don't know. Like everybody else, on the outside.
some people just want common sense, though, in legislation.
It's more than that. It's got to have gotten more complicated than it was.
Yeah.
I've read
The library,
about this,
Joe. The library that you guys have put a lot. Can you talk about that? You put money in that, and I guess the Catholic Center up there too.
Yeah, well, that's
That's really
been
good.
very active. Well, we got it. We don't spend it. We live in the same house for
That's really
30,
nice.
40 years. We don't. I don't know anybody in there. And I've gotten paid. It isn't. I have not, as I keep saying, I have not taken a vow of poverty.
Always good to know.
I have not taken. I get paid good money, more than I ever dreamed of, and more than we spend. I mean, I've got. So we've done with our money is try to give it away. Sue's been very active at the church, very active Special Olympics. She's an award Special Olympics. The library's always been a love of mine. I go back to, I don't know if any of you have ever been in one of the great libraries in the whole world, the New York Library.
The exhibitions there are
I
unbelievable.
used to work on West 40th Street for American Radiator and Standard Sanitary Corporation when I was 15 years old. I was a mail clerk. In those days, before you had computers, the mail would come in 2 or 3 times a day, and I had 2 floors, somebody else had 2 floors to run up there. And we had an old Irish guy who was in charge of the mailroom. And he could not stand to see us sitting there. He made me learn how to type. He taught me how to type. And then he used to chase us up to the library to read books. And the library's only took in New York, great reading room. So anyway, I've always been, the library's been something. And when I came to Penn State, we used to run the academic tutoring up in the library. And I used to be in charge of the academics when I first came to Penn State. In the library, we need a better library. We're getting there now, we're getting pretty good. Still got some work to do. It's much better. It's a little bit more diversified. More people interested. We've given some work. We're going to have to get more people. If we keep going like we're going, as I said, if the states keep cutting back, we can't afford not to educate our kids. We're going to go backwards. It isn't just going to be, you start retrenching, and we're going to end up giving up our future.